Our holiday begins at Porto Maniche by the sea. Most of the walks are along Levadas in the mountains with our leader, Terry Nash. After 3 days here, we moved to Punta do Sol on the opposite coast. The Levadas of Madeira are known all over the world. They are a system of aqueducts about 500 miles long. Today, Levadas are also paths for discovery and contact with nature and the agricultural landscape. Water runs year-round along an unobstructed surface in a gentle flow, carried by gravity along channels with a slight incline. Sometimes it almost appears as if they are flowing uphill. They follow the natural slope of the mountainous terrain.
So we were dropped off just there and we're following this Levada all the way down. Yeah. So if we look straight across in that direction...
Levadas date back to the early 15th century when water became necessary for irrigation, particularly sugarcane, which was the first crop of high economic value in Madeira. As farming expanded, with the cultivation of not just sugar, but also wine growing and bananas, the Levada network kept growing all over the island. The most common cross-section makes them about a metre in width and between 50 and 70 centimetres deep. They can be many miles long, most commonly made of concrete, but they continue to be narrow irrigation systems so that they avoid losing too much water by evaporation. Today, Levadas irrigate the land and allow water to go through turbines to generate electricity. This is the first day of walking from our new base. We are following the Levada, which is under reconstruction and repair, for about 8 miles, and then I think we're going to arrive at a village, at a bar, and we will be collected by taxis and taken back to the hotel. It's a lovely day. It's late autumn in England and the temperature here is quite warm for walking, but totally bearable. And I think most of us can cope with several days in these kind of temperatures. They cross and traverse the entire island, a remarkable historical and cultural landmark on an island with only 742 square kilometres of surface area. If we include the very smallest of the irrigation systems, the network today still has an impressive length of nearly 2,000 miles of waterway, and 25 miles pass through tunnels hewn through the rock. Today's walk should have started with a bus ride, but after waiting for 20 minutes or so, Terry decided that it wasn't going to come, so ordered two taxis and a minibus, and we've come a few miles around the coast, and we had a quick look at what they call the Skywalk, which is an amazing viewing platform, but the visibility today is not good. Anyway, we've picked up a Levada and we're striding back to the coast. They can be many miles long, most commonly made of concrete, but they continue to be narrow irrigation systems to avoid losing too much water by evaporation. Well, today we've walked along dry Levadas and ones that are full, and the ones that are full are rather more interesting than the ones that are dry, I have to say that. But it's been good to walk in the sun and in the shade because it's really quite hot, and now we're going down quite steep hill and we're tackling a long staircase. Until the beginning of the 20th century, there was no running water to homes. People were forced to wash their clothes in creeks and Levadas. Today's walk, we promise, is going to be a little bit different in that we're starting with a bit of going up, and then towards the end of the day there'll be plenty of going down, of course. We've been brought up here by taxis, and there's an optional lift back in the taxi for those who don't want to do the steps. Madeira is very fertile, everything seems to grow very, really well, including sweet chestnuts. And just up above here there's a lady gathering them, I don't know, for herself or for the market. When we moved from Porto Moniz to Ponta do Sol, we came down very near this place, and this morning we're walking along by the sea. And it's a lovely crisp morning, and another Levada. Most of the Levadas are very well fenced, and although there's a big drop down to one side or other, the path is flat and there's a handrail, but sometimes there isn't, and you just need to be a little bit careful. So far, no one's wobbled off. At first, the arduous construction of levadas was left to private initiatives. Then, starting in the 19th century, in the light of economic difficulties, specifically in agriculture due to the crisis in wine production, these canals began to be built by the state. Today's walk is certainly different. There are no levadas in sight. We are going around the coast, around the cliffs, the promontory that sticks out at the end of Madeira, through a volcanic landscape. It's much cooler today. We've come back to the area next to where we were yesterday, just beyond the airport, and we've picked up a levada, and there's going to be a hill, and then we're going to come down to the north coast. Well, that's the end of the levada stretch, and now we're going uphill for I think an hour or so. Levadas date back to the early 15th century when water became necessary for irrigation, particularly sugarcane. In days gone by, tracks like this one would have been very important, and just getting from one valley to the next would have been going up tracks like this one. As farming expanded, with the cultivation of not just sugar, but also wine growing and bananas, the levada network kept growing all over the island. Sadly, we're not going to be able to scale the high peaks of Madeira on this holiday because the cloud has closed in and there's just no point, you just wouldn't see anything up there. So we're going on an alternative walk. Today, levadas irrigate the land and allow water to go through turbines to generate electricity. They cross and traverse the entire island, a remarkable historical and cultural landmark.